A major Supreme Court ruling just landed, and depending on where you live, it could turn your concealed carry permit into something that feels almost useless, or something that could save you from life-altering consequences. And here's the dangerous part. If you don't understand how the rules are shifting before 2026 fully sets in, you could break the law without ever intending to, not because you're reckless, not because you're careless, but because the legal ground under your feet is moving while you're still standing still. Before we go any further, let me ask you something honestly. Are you staying informed, or are you assuming things haven't changed? Because the information you're about to hear isn't about politics or opinions. It's about keeping yourself out of courtrooms, out of debt, and out of a cell. The kind of mistakes we're talking about don't look dramatic on the surface, but they can follow you for years. We're going to walk through 7 major shifts tied to concealed carry permits that are unfolding now and will shape how things look in 2026. And we're talking about them now for a reason. Not because every law flips on January 1st, but because the real consequences start long before that. Lawsuits begin months or years early. State agencies start rewriting rules quietly. Legislators push bills while most people aren't paying attention. And the choices you make right now, whether you renew a permit, how to travel, where you carry, can either protect you later or put you in a terrible position. I'll keep this straightforward. No legal jargon without explanation, no scare tactics. Every concept gets translated into plain language, and every rule gets tied to real-world situations you can actually picture happening to you. Here's the first thing you need to understand. It is the most important idea in this entire discussion. Most people think a concealed carry permit is just a permission slip, a plastic card that says you're allowed to carry a handgun. But that's not the full picture. A permit is also proof that you went through a process, proof that you were vetted, proof that you complied with rules at a certain point in time. And that proof can shape how police interact with you, how prosecutors evaluate a case, how other states treat you, and how much room you have for error if something goes wrong. As we move toward 2026, that protective function of the permit is being reshaped in ways most people don't see coming. The first major shift is this. In many states, your permit may matter less at home, but far more the moment you cross a border. Over the past few years, more states have adopted permitless carry, sometimes called constitutional carry. In those states, eligible adults can carry concealed without applying for a permit first. So naturally, many people look at their permit renewal notice and think, why bother? If I don't need it here, why pay the fee, take the class, or deal with the paperwork? That logic makes sense until you leave your state. Think of permitless carry like your home internet connection. It works where you live, but the second you step outside that zone, it doesn't magically follow you. A concealed carry permit, on the other hand, can function like a passport. It's what allows other states to recognize your right to carry through reciprocity agreements. Reciprocity simply means one state agrees to honor another state's permit. And here's what's changing. The gap between states is widening. Some states are expanding carry rights within their borders, while others are becoming more selective about which permits they recognize, how they recognize them, and under what conditions. Picture this scenario. You live in a state that allows permitless carry. You stop renewing your permit because you think it's unnecessary. Then you take a road trip with your family. You cross into a state that still requires a permit and does not recognize permitless carry from your home state. You're carrying the same way you always do. You're calm. You're responsible. You're not causing trouble. But under that state's law, you're now carrying illegally. That can mean arrest. It can mean your firearm being seized. It can mean criminal charges, and even if everything eventually gets sorted out, it can mean thousands of dollars in legal fees, missed work, and a permanent mark on your record. And it doesn't stop there. Some states are narrowing the types of permits they recognize. They may only honor permits issued to residents of that state. They may reject non-resident permits entirely. They may require proof of live-fire training instead of classroom instruction only. They may require fingerprint-based background checks, so even if you have a permit, the question becomes whether it meets another state's evolving checklist. What shocks most people is how quickly these rules can change. One announcement from an attorney general, one court ruling, one quiet update to a reciprocity list, and suddenly, what was legal last month isn't legal today. So, what's the smart move right now? If your state offers a permit, strongly consider keeping it active even if you don't need it at home. If you ever travel, that permit may be the difference between a routine stop and a life-altering charge. Keep your training records organized. Keep renewal documentation accessible, not because you love paperwork, but because paperwork is what matters when law enforcement or courts get involved. And build a habit. Before any trip, check the carry laws for the states you'll enter, not what they were years ago, not what someone told you online, what they are right now. The second major change involves so-called sensitive places. And this is where a lot of responsible people get blindsided. A sensitive place is a location where carrying a firearm is prohibited even if you have a valid permit. Some examples are obvious to most people: courthouses, secured government buildings, and certain school settings. But states are increasingly stretching the definition of what counts as sensitive. We're seeing restrictions applied to parks, public transportation, medical offices, entertainment venues, large public gatherings, and locations where alcohol is served. Some states are even attempting to create broad zones where carrying is effectively impossible. Without constant legal research, here's the mistake many people make. They assume that if there's no sign posted, carrying is allowed, but signage doesn't define the law. Statutes do. In some states, no sign is required at all. In others, signs must meet specific legal standards. And in some cases, a location is restricted by law regardless of whether the owner posts anything. As we approach 2026, many of these sensitive place laws are being challenged in court. Judges strike parts down, legislators rewrite them, agencies reinterpret them, and the result is confusion and rapid change. Imagine this. You've carried at the same coffee shop for years. Then your state changes the rule so that carrying on private property is illegal, unless the owner explicitly allows it with signage. That flips the default. Suddenly, walking into your regular spot with no sign posted could be a criminal act even, though nothing feels different. This is why your permit isn't a force field. It only protects you within the boundaries lawmakers allow. The smart response is to slow down around locations that might be restricted. Government buildings, schools, bars, public transit, medical facilities, large events. If you're not sure, verify before you carry, because you can do everything with good intentions and still end up on the wrong side of the law. The third change is quieter, but just as dangerous: permit renewals and processing delays. A huge number of permit-related charges come from paperwork issues, not violent behavior. Expired permits, missed renewals, address changes not reported on time, carrying during a processing gap. Here's how it happens. Your permit has an expiration date. You submit your renewal application. You assume you're covered. But in many states, submitting paperwork does not extend your legal authorization. Some states offer no grace period at all. Others only under very specific conditions. Now add real life, mail delays, administrative backlogs, new training requirements, budget cuts, increased demand, as states respond to legal pressure and political changes heading into 2026. Permit systems are under strain. Picture this. Your permit expires March 1st. You submit renewal paperwork in early February. Processing takes 2 months. You keep carrying, assuming everything's fine. But legally, from March 2nd until approval, you're unlicensed. One traffic stop, one incident, and suddenly you're facing charges you never imagined. The solution is boring but effective. Track your expiration dates. Set multiple reminders months in advance. Treat permit renewals as critical deadlines. And if you move, learn your state's address update rules immediately. In some places, failing to update your address can invalidate your permit overnight. The fourth change involves traffic stops and duty to inform laws. And this is where emotions and misunderstandings collide. There is no national standard for whether you must inform an officer that you're carrying. Some states require immediate disclosure. Some require disclosure only if asked. Some don't require it at all. And these rules are changing as states revise carry laws. The danger comes when people rely on habits formed in their home state while traveling elsewhere. Imagine being pulled over in a state with a duty to inform rule. You don't say anything because you wouldn't at home. You reach for your registration. The officer notices your firearm. Suddenly the tone of the stop changes. Backup arrives. You're disarmed. And now you're facing potential charges for failing to inform, even though you never intended to hide anything. Preparation matters here. Know the rules of the states you travel through. Decide in advance how you'll handle a stop. Keep your movements slow and visible. Stay calm, because panic and uncertainty are what turn routine stops into serious problems. The fifth shift involves homemade firearms and so-called ghost gun regulations. Even if you've never built a firearm, these rules can still affect you. States are expanding definitions of what counts as a regulated firearm. Frames, receivers, kits, and parts are increasingly regulated. Serialization requirements are expanding. Transfer rules are tightening. Imagine inheriting an old firearm or unfinished frame from a relative. You store it without thinking much about it, but under new rules, possession may require steps you never took. Or imagine buying a firearm legally in one state and moving to another, where the transfer process you used is no longer recognized. Your carry permit doesn't protect you from possession or transfer violations. The only defense is knowing the rules before changes lock in. The sixth change centers on school zones, and this one catches people during normal routines. School-related restrictions often extend beyond buildings, parking lots, pickup lines, athletic fields, shared facilities. Some states allow secured storage in vehicles, others don't. Some require firearms to be unloaded and locked. Some offer no exceptions. Picking up a child, attending a game, voting at a school gym, these everyday activities can become legal minefields if you don't know your state's rules. If schools are part of your routine, you need a plan, not guesses, not assumptions, a plan that keeps you legal every time. The seventh and final change involves permit suspensions and disqualifiers. More states are expanding the conditions that can temporarily suspend a permit. Accusations, protective orders, pending cases, mental health holds, substance-related issues. Even before a final judgment, your permit can be suspended, and here's the trap. If you continue carrying during a suspension, even if you believe it's unfair, you turn a temporary legal issue into a criminal one. If you're ever served paperwork mentioning firearms, weapons, or restrictions, stop carrying and get legal advice immediately. Do not rely on opinions. Do not rely on social media, because once the system is involved, timing and compliance matter more than intent. When you put all of this together, the message is simple. The biggest risk in 2026 isn't bad people doing bad things. It's normal, responsible people navigating a legal environment that's changing faster than they realize. Permits, reciprocity, sensitive places, renewals, traffic stops, parts rules, school zones, suspensions. Every one of these areas is shifting at the same time. So the smart approach is this: keep your permit current. Stay informed before you travel or change routines. Plan for high-risk moments instead of reacting in the moment. Because staying armed isn't just about carrying responsibly. It's about staying legal while the rules evolve around you. And the people who get hurt the most aren't the reckless ones. They're the ones who assumed nothing had changed. Stay informed, stay deliberate, and don't let ignorance cost you your freedom.